A very pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Rob Witham along with Marty Wilson, the voice of the Yellow Jackets, in a non-traditional fashion, as has been the case for most of 2020. We welcome you to virtual homecoming. And to do that, we will move forward by stepping back and talk a little bit here in our pregame show prior to watching what ended up being a classic, the last homecoming for Randolph-Macon back in 2018 when they were taking on Bridgewater. But there was a lot to talk about before they got to that particular game, and that's how I'll bring Marty Wilson in. Marty, Yellow Jackets had sky-high hopes after a strong end to the 2017 season. They go to Baltimore opening night, and they lose to Johns Hopkins, nationally ranked at the time. And then they come into ODAC play, and as they entered homecoming October of 2 years ago, undefeated in conference play with a pair of really impressive road wins.
And Rob, and thank you first off for the introduction there, but it really was a season with a lot of high hopes for the Yellow Jackets. As you mentioned, 7-3, and to finish out the 2017 season, you won 5 of your last 6, including an impressive victory over Hampton-Sydney, 56-28. You start your season like we have over the last several years against Johns Hopkins, sort of a barometer for where you stand, not only in the region but on a national level. Play a little bit better against the Blue Jays than we had in prior years, and then that really set us up for the run that we go on within the rest of our regular season. 5-0 going into this ball game with Bridgewater, 3-0 in the ODAC, and really 2 impressive victories. We went up 3 weeks prior to this contest, went up and won at Washington and Lee, a place that had proven to be very difficult to win. I think we'd gotten our first win there 2 years prior and hadn't lost 8 consecutive games prior to that. So, but you go to Washington and Lee and play against one of the best rushing teams in the country, normally top 5 in the country. We hold them to 8 first downs and beat them 23-7. So a very convincing win against the team that was picked with Randolph-Macon at the top of the ODAC poll, tied number 1 in the preseason. And then you follow that up with a convincing win on the road at Shenandoah. And we've called enough games throughout the years with Shenandoah to recognize Hayden Bowserman, their quarterback, was an All-American caliber quarterback. Actually, after he graduated, had some opportunities to go to some NFL tryout camps. And big, strong kid that really threw the ball down the field and went up there and played well. We really played well and shut them down and came away with another convincing victory. So Yellow Jackets were prime. 2 good victories in the prior 3 weeks, having won 5 in a row, prime for this ball game coming in against the Eagles.
And I think we also need to take a moment and remind listeners and viewers about the situation and the history behind Randolph-Macon and Bridgewater and how Coach Pedro Arruza really views that Bridgewater program. I don't think many people, myself included, going into homecoming 2 years ago, I don't want to use the term taking them seriously. We certainly did. But I think a lot of people did not expect what ended up unfolding on that afternoon.
No, and Tom Clark is a longtime coach there at Bridgewater. I think Coach Arruza will admit when Coach Arruza got to Randolph-Macon, the model of consistency and winning football was really what you saw down at Bridgewater. So I think he came in and looked at that and said, if I can get to the point that I have a program that is similar to what Coach Clark is able to accomplish down there, it would be a success. And Bridgewater coming into the season was picked number 8 preseason, which I think was very misleading. They had actually played very well after this ball game. They get on a little bit of a run, win 4 games in a row, and then we turn and look to the following year. They use that as really a jumping off point for them winning the following year's ODAC championship. And we'll talk a little bit as we get further into the offense and defense for the Yellow Jackets through the course of this program about the challenges the Eagles presented to the Yellow Jackets on that afternoon.
Well, normally at this time, fans, there's a lot of activity. The Smith tailgate lot would have hundreds of tailgate parties spilling over with thousands of spirited alumni. And if someone tried to come through that part of the center of the universe, it would be very difficult to do so, and so much fun as well. And that's even before opening kickoff. And while we can't be together this year, unfortunately, we can relive one of our favorite tailgate traditions. The Lombard family, winners of the 2018 Alice Branch Tailgate Award, wanted to share some memories of past years. So I think we're going to have that happen here.
Thanks, Rob and Marty. Yes, here on the Smith tailgating lot, we would be all together celebrating another great homecoming. The Lombards have so graciously given us some recipes so you can celebrate at home at www.rmc.edu/alumni/homecoming. Hope that we can see you next year.
Here's hoping, first of all, that in 2021, we're not in this situation and we can all be face-to-face again and enjoying the tailgate prior to a homecoming day. But, Marty, I tell you, it's kind of strange. And in this time that we've had here, I don't know how you feel about it, that we're now about halfway through what would have been the regular season for Randolph-Macon. Every Saturday that goes by, I cherish the opportunity to enjoy football more and more, and will appreciate it even more once we do get back to that.
And Rob, I agree with you. In fact, I can't wait to get back and see all the tailgaters back out there in the Brock lot. We usually get there early, and you can stand on the platform from the press box and look back and just see the number of people that are back there. A lot of my classmates back there enjoying themselves. And I will tell you, I've got the 2020 football schedule still on my refrigerator here, and you sort of look at it each week and going, this is where we were supposed to be this week. So I think everybody who loves Randolph-Macon football is looking forward to getting back to Day Field, action on the field, and certainly action in the parking lot, if you will, as far as the tailgating activity.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Macon Day.
But Macon Day, Rob, it's, one thing that's changed quite a bit you've seen a lot of change on campus in 2020. One of the things that really has not changed is the generosity of the Yellow Jacket community. Last Thursday, October 8th, was Macon Day for Randolph-Macon. The college has done this over the last several years, and last Thursday was also a record-setting Macon Day for the college. They went into it trying to raise $500,000 from 1,550 donors, and the 1,550 donors was significant because that matches this year's enrollment. It was so successful that they raised over $626,000 from over 1,600 alumni and friends of the college. So very successful, and the recognition of the essential nature of the funding, this type of fundraising. In 2003, the Society of Alumni Board created the Tom Powers Award to recognize the classes who reached the highest giving participation rate within each decade. So, if you will, I've got a list of the winners from last year, starting with the class of 1943 and 1944, who had 100% participation. So very impressive for those two classes. The class of 1959 with 63% participation. Classes of 63 and 67 tied with 57% participation. The class of 1975 with class agent Mike Carter and 54% participation. Class of 84 with class agents John McManus and Christine Russell Vale with 45% participation for the class of 1984. 1996 with class agents Graham Rashkin and Ansley Rose with 34% participation. 2008, the class agents Margaret Fisher and Tyler Watkins with 28% participation. And 2019 with class agents Saunders Riley and former basketball player Darrell Williams with participation rate of 27%. So we'd like to say congratulations for a very successful Macon Day, and thank you to all who chose to make a gift to give back to Randolph-Macon.
And may I add on the end of that, Marty, how impressed I was all day during Macon Day on Twitter, on Facebook, watching the various athletic programs use social media to their advantage, doing a tremendous job getting the word out about Macon Day, the importance of Macon Day, especially in this particular time frame. So shout out to all of the coaches and all of the assistant coaches and everyone who had a hand in helping make the social media component from the Randolph-Macon Athletic Department. I thought they did a phenomenal job. And you go back that day, it was probably midday. I knew I was going to be one of the alumni that gave anyways, but then I got an email about midday from Coach Aruza, and just a very well-written email, talked a lot about his experiences with the program, and at the end, just the link there that made it very easy for you to give. And from that point on for the rest of the day, I kept going back to the page to see how the football team in particular was doing as far as the number of donations they'd received and the goal that they were chasing during the course of the day. Very successful day for everybody involved. No doubt about it. Congratulations, and thank you to all of you who made Macon Day such an incredible success. Marty, we can't talk about the 2018 Randolph-Macon Yellow Jackets without really a heavy focus on their defensive unit. Coming into that season, they were going to be kind of relied upon a little bit, along with the running game offensively, which we'll get to in a few moments. But you mentioned two games earlier in our virtual pregame show here, the trip to Lexington and the opening ODAC win against Washington and Lee, as well as 2 weeks later, the trip up to Shenandoah, a team that had hung 51 on the Yellow Jackets at home the year before, and stopping that potent Bowserman-led passing attack. You have to have great versatility, and it all started with the experience coming back on that side of the ball, did it not?
And it did, Rob. I think when you go back and look at season's end, so much talent on this team, and we'll talk defense now and offense in a little bit, but ultimately we had 17 players on that roster that made either first, second, or third team all ODAC. So the amount of talent you had coming back was really tremendous. But defensively, you look at going up to Washington and Lee first off. We mentioned earlier about the fact always top 5 in the country in running the ball. A little bit different, really disciplined way you've got to approach them. But the guys we had in the program at that point had seen it so frequently and were so disciplined, so well skilled at how to approach it. You go up there and really shut down Josh Brees, who's one of the better running backs in the conference and in the country. Take him away. You hold them to 8 first downs on the ball game and really dominate the ball game. So one approach there, you're facing almost a 100% rushing team and shut them down. 2 weeks later, you go up to Shenandoah, one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I'm not sure if anybody graduated that year with better overall stats than Hayden Bowserman. Big, strong kid, big arm. You talked about the fact we struggled to play defense against him the year before, and the philosophy changes. We sat there and watched it and called it from the press box, and we dropped 8 and rushed 3. And we're able to really fall back and sort of contain for a good bit of the ballgame. Change it up a little bit, but that was a good bit of how we approached it. Made him have to find open receivers. So the philosophy for your defenders from 1 week to the next, as far as what you're asking your young men to do, 1 week it's really, really stacking the line of scrimmage and stopping the run. The next is how you're going to defend one of the better passers in the country. Did both very effectively. Got 2 ODAC wins on the road leading up to this Bridgewater game,
which puts you in a position to be in the race for the ODAC championship because of that versatility. I thought that the Washington and Lee performance kind of put the defense on notice to the rest of the conference. Oh, that's an impressive performance there. But I'm very sure that the Bridgewater coaching staff and everybody else from there on in looked at what happened at Shenandoah 2 weeks later and how they completely changed the way they handled things, and they created so tight windows and very few open opportunities for Bowserman and his receiving core. It was so impressive, and that was kind of their coming out party.
And you would have to think, Rob, if you're a coaching staff within the conference and you're thinking, okay, what's the best way to attack this defense? You look at one set of film from Washington and Lee, you're going, they show that they're really difficult to run the ball against. And then 2 weeks later, you think, well, maybe we need to throw the ball down the field. And then you see that film stopping Hayden Bowserman. You're going, how do we try to attack this? And I think that as we get a little bit more into the Bridgewater game, they had some success, a little bit different style of the quarterback. But I think that the Yellow Jackets overall had come together very well up to that point defensively. And a lot of it was just a sheer amount of talent. Anthony Williams, Steve McNair, Taven Anderson. You had a lot of guys back, experience on the defensive side of the ball. Matthew Vergara, guys that had been there before and knew what the coaching staff expected from them.
And then you had a freshman in the backfield like Steven Richardson that year.
Yes.
You looked at that and go, okay, are they going to pick on him in the passing game? And he did a fantastic job learning on the fly, being kind of that 11th, the 11th cog in the wheel, as it were, and not letting himself become that person that other teams are going to look at and go, okay, if we're going to focus on someone, we can get onto him. That wasn't the case at all. He learned from Barr. He learned from the rest of his teammates back there, did a fantastic job.
And they were strong enough up front, the fact you could get pressure with your front 4. You didn't have to take linebackers out of your coverage scheme to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. You could do so when you wanted to, but it wasn't a necessity. And that helped some of the younger guys on the backside of that defense, gave them a little bit more support. But just overall, you and I have been calling games for a number of years. It was one of the more talented squads on the defensive side of the ball that I have seen in a long time. And it really as the season played out, you could see they just got better and better, and I'm sure it caused a lot more problems for opposing coaching staffs as far as how do you prepare to try to move the ball against that defense.
Of course, you got to score points too, and Marty, in just a moment, we'll talk about that offense from 2018.
Also a lot of talent on that side of the ball, Rob. Folks, so far today, we spent a lot of time talking about our current student athletes and also our generous alumni. Now it's time to talk about the next generation of Yellow Jackets. The Refer a Yellow Jacket program connects prospective students with alumni and friends of the college. It gives them one more friendly face to turn to ask questions about what college life is like on the Randolph-Macon campus. If you refer them, students will get a $1,000 scholarship for 4 years under the name of their alumni admissions ambassador. This is meant primarily for students that really aren't that familiar with Randolph-Macon. So just if you're wondering, it doesn't allow you to refer your own child at that point in time, just to set a baseline there. But it's a great opportunity to refer a friend of your son or daughter who might be looking to come to Randolph-Macon at the same time. So great example of how this program was meant to be used. And if the student that you refer, if they're looking for additional information about the program, or if you want to find out more about the program, you can go to the RMC alumni page and find out more there. And while we're at it, the admissions office has done a great job this fall setting up virtual tours of campus and also virtual open houses. So the young man or woman that you've referred as part of the Refer a Yellow Jacket program can also go on and through the alumni or the admissions page on the RMC website and find out more about the college overall and how they can take their own virtual tour. So a lot of ways to refer a Yellow Jacket, some benefits of referring the Yellow Jackets, and then giving the students ways. Difficult to see much of campus now. I know that there's some students that are coming on campus for some visits, but their first look might be by way of one of the virtual open houses or the virtual admissions tour of campus.
So for more information, Marty, I'll back in with you on this. First, about the Refer a Yellow Jacket program on the website, rmc.edu/alumni/connect. That's how you can get a part of that program. And then for the admissions, you talked about the virtual open houses. I might just do one simply because I'm fascinated by how did they make this all happen at rmc.edu/admissions. That's rmc.edu/admissions. Now, Marty, we've been in quarantine for months. Have you participated in any type of e-sports by chance?
I'm not a big esports guy, Rob. I'm not someone you would draft on your esports team. Let's just put it that way. So,
yeah,
I'd be like the last guy picked in dodgeball kind of thing. So
right, I usually played right field when I was 9, so I totally get it in the esports area. But I'm on Twitter all the time, and the Randolph-Macon esports program is exploding. It is growing exponentially. It is a great program. Fastest sport in the country. The fastest growing sport is virtual. Okay, it's virtual. In fact, the RMC team is playing Madden football against Shenandoah this afternoon at 1 o'clock. And if you'd like to kind of peek into that while you enjoy our look back at homecoming 2018 against Bridgewater, just go to the alumni website, rmc.edu/alumni/homecoming. Again, that's rmc.edu/alumni/homecoming. And you can join that virtual experience. You can watch present day football, the future of football, and relive some great moments with the Yellow Jackets from 2 years ago. And speaking of which, Marty, we've talked defensively and rightfully so, but there were very important cogs in the offensive scheme for Coach Aruza and company in that season. Though we had some question marks coming in, there was a lot of experience to draw upon. I think of the names Burke Estes and Trey Frederick, but I also think of the name Eric Hoy. And then there were some men up front that, those talented weapons, they can't do what they need to do unless you can give them a little bit of daylight. And as the season went on, the Yellow Jackets proved to be a very worthy opponent on the offensive side of the ball.
And Rob, I think that most people follow football would agree that the offensive and defensive line really don't get enough credit. So I think that we'll start really looking back at the offensive side. Two of the guys up front, in particular, Greg Castle, who won several All-American honors at the end of this season, and then Jake Wernell up front. Guys had been there, very experienced, really opened the holes for the other dynamic ball carriers or receivers on the offensive side. And, you look at Burke, and we've got a conversation with Burke coming up here a little bit later in our program where Phil Stanton, our SID, sits down with Burke and looks back at his experience with this game. But experienced quarterback, he graduates with Randolph-Macon second all-time in the ODAC at completing 65.5% of his passes. Oddly enough, the only person ahead of him in ODAC history is Zach Nacarado, who also played Randolph-Macon. I think Zach was just shortly before Burke, but very accomplished quarterback. So you've got experience at your QB position. And then we had the pleasure watching Trey Frederick and Eric Hoy in particular, and Sam Tanner and some of the guys on the offensive side. Hoy and Frederick coming out of North Carolina, where Coach Aruza's done a great job of getting talent to come up out of the Carolina leagues down there. And when you look at Trey Frederick in particular, he finishes his career as the all-time leading rusher in the ODAC in an RMC history, and second in the state of Virginia on all levels as far as running the ball. So great offensive line to run behind. He was a dynamic back, but there were a lot of other pieces that really made that offense go.
No doubt about it. And offense feeds defense and vice versa. And so as the offense, and we got to remember, I mean, they put up a ton of points against Johns Hopkins up in Baltimore. Things went a little wobbly early fourth quarter in that opening night that kind of made the score. The margin of victory was bigger than it really should have been in terms of reflecting how the actual 60 minutes turned out. And I remember you and I leaving Baltimore that night confident of what we saw despite the loss. And you could see the confidence growing offensively throughout the ODAC schedule, watching how the defense was giving them opportunity after opportunity, whether it be a big 3 and out at a certain point, forcing a turnover, whatever the case may be. And then it's Pedro Aruza football. Hand the ball, occasional pass if you need to, grind that clock, win the time of possession. They did it well.
Yeah, and Rob, I think as Coach Aruza has always done, he tries to test his team in the early going of the season, and that test in a lot of cases has been Johns Hopkins. And I think we walked away from that game thinking that we could play with a team at that level on both sides of the ball. And I think offensively, the guys we're running out there with Hoy and Estes and Frederick in particular, and Tanner and others, and Castle and Wernell up front were as good as almost anybody in the country. And I think we proved that as this season went on, and not to get too far ahead, but obviously you get a chance to go to the NCAA playoffs and win a road game there. But I think our guys had seen the Blue Jays several times and really had built a lot of confidence. And I think coming out of that game, came into the rest of their schedule, including ODAC play, with a tremendous amount of confidence. And they created a lot of matchup problems for other teams on the schedule.
No doubt about it. You mentioned Trey and Eric coming in from North Carolina. Greg Castle also in that area. Johnston County, North Carolina, they have has become really a proving ground for fine recruits for Randolph-Macon. Great job by the coaching staff to go down there and find players willing to come up here to Ashland, Virginia, and do things like Trey Frederick's done, and Eric and Greg. Just a phenomenal job recruiting-wise. Well, you and I were in the booth for that game 2 years ago, but Burke Estes was in the middle of everything. This is a good time to enjoy a conversation between Burke and Director of Athletic Communications, Phil Stanton, as the quarterback looks back on homecoming 2018.
Thank you, Rob. I am joined by former quarterback Burke Estes. Burke, thanks for joining us. If you would, let us know where you are and what you're doing now.
Well, all right. I just graduated through all the COVID festivities a couple months ago, and I'm now up in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm a medical device sales rep at the UVA hospital, doing some full knee, hip, and shoulder replacements. So moved from the football field into the operating room. So it's a crazy transition, but I think just as stressful environment.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a look back 2 years to that homecoming game against Bridgewater. Talk about the preparation for the game, where you felt like the Jackets were. They were 5-1 overall, had won 5 straight, and we're sitting 3-0 in the conference.
Yeah, I think coming into this game, we started the year with that loss at Hopkins, and that was a big test for us. We circled that one in the offseason, and we really wanted to win that game. And so that kind of was a big blow. Got beat pretty handily in the second half there, but we were able to rebound. And I think that's where you find out if your team's any good, see how you rebound when things don't go your way. And so we rebounded and rattled off 5 pretty impressive wins. I know we beat Shenandoah, which was a redemption game because they kind of put it to us the year before, unfortunately. So that was great. I know the players and the coaches were really excited to get that win. And we were able to, I guess, beat W&L previously to this game, and that's always a big win for us. So I think we were feeling pretty good going into this game. We knew we had a very impressive team but it's still halfway through the season, and so you don't know quite what type of team you have. But we normally finish the year strong at Randolph-Macon, so we knew that if we can get through that first 6 games that we would finish the year probably pretty strong, and couldn't have imagined how well the season could have ended. But it was a fun year, and 5-1 sitting pretty good going into this game.
Well, had some real interesting flows to the game itself. The Jackets offense had some tough field position in starting some drives early, but then were able to come up with a sizable lead, had a big Trey Frederick run that helped the Jackets build a good-sized lead in the second quarter.
Yeah, the offensive line played super well in that second quarter, and allowed, I guess, Trey and Hoy and a couple of our running backs to just bust it open. And we jumped out to a pretty sizable lead, like you said, just based off the great defense that we were playing. I guess we see later how well the offense for Bridgewater could play. And so they played really well to hold them to, I guess, 3 points in the first half. So the defense played really well. The offense started clicking, and we had all the momentum. And so, yeah, the first half was pretty good for us.
Yeah, some challenges in the second half. Bridgewater had a really good third quarter, and there were 2 different times in the fourth quarter that they took the lead, but the offense was able to respond there. You and Eric hooking up on a big play for one of the tying touchdowns, and then Trey with another long run that tied it a second time.
Yeah, now, Phil, like, as a past athlete and everybody watching this who played sports, like when you go up big, you have all the momentum, and then a team scores a couple times to tie the game and then go up on us. Like when they have all the momentum, it's very, very difficult to get that momentum back, and not a lot of teams can. And I think that's credit to our coaching staff and just that veteran leadership that we had that year to be able to, when we lost all the momentum, to regain it in the fourth quarter and kind of not let that game slip, because we were at a point where Bridgewater was playing well in that third quarter and could have very easily not gone our way. But our coaches got us back in the game. Our veteran leaders were able to weather the storm, and were able to make some big plays. And that's what really good teams do, is find a way to make the big plays when you need to.
Bridgewater ends up winning the coin toss heading into overtime, so the Jackets are going to start on offense. Talk about your mentality and kind of how you carry that into the offense. Do you feel like we've got to get points, we've got to get a touchdown? Kind of how's the approach when you've got that ball first?
Oh, offensively, it's score, touchdown. There's no thinking about kicking extra or field goal there. It's a touchdown or nothing there, really, as our mentality. And starting at the 25, like how the college overtime does, you feel like you're in a pretty good spot, because one of the things that Randolph-Macon we do really well is we score touchdowns in the red zone. Like, we are a very good red zone offense, and we're very good on third down. And so when you get down there inside the 25, we have the mentality that we probably will score a touchdown. And so when you give us the ball, we don't have to drive it to get to the red zone. We just start in the red zone. With the way we run the football and kind of the play action passes that we have, we're pretty tough to stop down in that red area. And so that's definitely the mindset. We're going to score, and their offense was hot. So we had faith in the defense for sure, and ended up getting big stops later. But you always want to get in the touchdown and not have to rely on the defense to hold them to just a field goal.
Well, both teams end up tied again after that first overtime, get into the second overtime. The defense does hold them to a field goal. Are you kind of licking your chops there, thinking that, you feel pretty good about where you are?
When the defense got that stop, the whole team was just ecstatic. It was awesome. It was awesome for the defense to be able to get a stop, because just like us, they can run the football really well. Scroggins, the quarterback, was hot in that second half, And so to be able to come up with a stop and hold them to a field goal is all you can ask for as an offense. And so when we got the ball, we knew we saw the light at the end of the tunnel. All we needed to do was get in the touchdown, and it was the ball game. And at that point, we were going into Birdsong, and you have so many fans on the balconies, and the stadium was like rocking. It was awesome. Whoever was at that game, thank you guys for sticking around and cheering so hard, because it was a great environment. I mean, I'm just picturing it. You see through the goalposts, like onto Birdsong, all the fans in the president's box and on the all surrounding us. And it's hard not to score when you have that kind of momentum and that kind of fan base pulling you along.
All right. Well, Burke, thanks so much for joining us. Rob, we're going to send it back to you for more of the pregame show.
Great interview from Burke. Thank you, Phil Stanton. Appreciate that very, very much. Getting ready to wrap up here our virtual pregame as part of virtual homecoming 2020 at Randolph-Macon. The 2018 homecoming game, and what a game it was against Bridgewater, coming up next right here. Marty, final thoughts before we go back and relive one of the most exciting Saturdays at Randolph-Macon in a very long time.
Yeah, I would just ask if the folks stick with the game to the end. I mean, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of points scored, but, don't want to give too much away. But dynamic ball players on both sides of the line. We talked about Bridgewater being number 8 in the preseason poll. They played much better than that. A team that really came through and gave the Yellow Jackets all they could handle. But great ball game, and hopefully the folks at home get to relive it and enjoy it one more time.
So it's coming up here in just a moment. You can watch it with friends using Zoom if you're not able to gather in person. Oh, plus, also, let's talk about this real quick. All the events that have taken place so far during Homecoming Weekend 2020, fans, they're available as recordings that you can enjoy on demand, along with virtual tours of campus and a virtual tour of the new Payne Hall building with the new nursing program. That is all available online. Already activities have been happening, and Marty, one of note from someone personal to both of us.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to my basketball broadcasting partner, Andrew Price. He was earlier this morning on Saturday. He was awarded the Susan H. Donovan Award from the Society of Alumni for all of his volunteer work with the college. Andrew's a 2004 graduate of the college and really started giving back both with his time and effort really since the day he graduated. It's been great to get to know Andrew as a friend. You and I have both done broadcasts with him, but really nice to see that he was recognized with that award this week.
No doubt about it, Andrew. Our heartiest congratulations to you. Don't forget, at halftime, you can see Barclay DuPriest at the alumni Facebook page. Just search Randolph-Macon Alumni on Facebook, or you can run over to Instagram if you're on the gram at RMC Alumni. That's RMC Alumni. Going to be giving away prizes for the most spirited selfie contest. There's a Randolph-Macon trivia contest coming up. So that's at halftime. Make sure you go to the alumni Facebook page. She will be waiting for you there. Well, the wait for us, it's over. It's time for kickoff of the 2018 homecoming unbelievable overtime game between Bridgewater and your Yellow Jackets of Randolph-Macon. For the voice of the Yellow Jackets, Marty Wilson, Rob Witham saying enjoy the rest of virtual homecoming weekend 2020 and enjoy the game, everyone.